Hello students, I welcome you all in today's lecture. Today we'll be discussing about plasma membrane, its structure and the transport of molecules through plasma membrane. Let's start with the objectives of lecture. To acquaint the students about the basic structure of plasma membrane, to understand membrane transport and to understand the types of transport through plasma membrane. So let's start with the introduction of lecture. Modern descriptions of the cell are intimately related to the notion of cell membranes. The cell membrane is not only the boundary of a unit of life, it is also a specific compartment that harbors many essential cell functions, including communication with the environment, transport of molecules, and certain metabolic functions. All the cells are bounded by the dynamic and multisensory barrier called plasma membrane, best described by the fluid mosaic model. The plasma membrane is selectively permeable to ions and inorganic molecules and regulates the movement of substances in and out of the cells. Plasma membrane is very flexible in order to allow certain cells, such as red and white blood cells, to change shape as they pass through narrow capillaries. The plasma membrane also plays a role in anchoring the cytoskeleton to provide shape to the cells and in attaching the extracellular matrix and other cells to group cells together to form tissues. Now let's talk about the structure of plasma membrane. Various models have been proposed from time to time to describe the structure of plasma membrane, like Overton and Langmuir's model 1980, Gorter and Grendel's membrane theory 1925, Dawson and Dennelly model 1940. But nowadays the consensual model to depict the membrane structure and function is the one proposed by S. Jonathan Singer and Gareth Nicholson, known as the fluid mosaic model, which is the dominant model so far. It has two key features: a mosaic of proteins embedded in the membrane and the membrane being a fluid bilayer of lipids. The lipid bilayer suggestion agrees with previous models but views proteins as a globular entities embedded in the layer instead of thin sheets on the surface. So what is this fluid mosaic model? The fluid mosaic model was proposed by S. J. Singer and Gareth L. Nicholson in 1972 to explain the structure of plasma membrane. The model has evolved somewhat over time, but it still best accounts for the structure and functions of plasma membrane as we now understand them. This model describes the structure of plasma membrane as a mosaic of components, including phospholipids, cholesterol, proteins, and carbohydrates that give the membrane a fluid character. Plasma membrane ranges from 5 to 10 nanometers in thickness. The proportion of proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates in the plasma membrane vary with the cell type. For example, myelin contains 18% protein and 76% lipids, while as mitochondrial inner membrane contains 76% proteins and 24% lipids. Now, the chemical constituents of plasma membrane. All plasma membranes, regardless of source, contain proteins as well as lipids. The ratio of protein to lipid varies enormously and depends on cell types. For example, the plasma membrane of human RBC contains 43% lipid and 49% protein by weight, whereas plasma membrane of mouse liver contains 54% lipid and 46% protein by weight. Carbohydrates are also present in plasma membrane and comprise only 5 to 10% of membrane mass. Carbohydrates bound either to proteins as constituents of glycoproteins or to lipids as constituents of glycolipids. Carbohydrates are apically abundant in the plasma membrane of eukaryotic cells. Now, the structure of lipid bilayer. The basic structure of plasma membrane is the lipid bilayer. This bilayer is composed of two leaflets of amphipathic lipid molecules whose polar head groups are in contact with the intra or extracellular aqueous phase, whereas their nonpolar tails face each other, constituting the hydrophobic interior of the membrane. The primary physical forces for organizing lipid bilayer are hydrophobic interactions. Three classes of lipid molecules are present in lipid bilayer, that's phospholipids, glycolipids, and citirols. Now, what are these phospholipids? Phospholipids are made up of four components: an alcohol, that's glycerol or sphingosine, fatty acids, phosphate, and an alcohol attached to the phosphate. The fatty acid components are hydrophobic, that's water hating, while as the remainder of the molecule is hydrophilic, that's water loving. There are two types of phospholipids, glycerophospholipids and supingophospholipids. Phospholipids derived from glycerol are called glycerophospholipids or phosphoglycerides and contain glycerol, fatty acids, phosphate, and an alcohol, for example, choline. Phosphoglyceride molecules are classified according to the type of alcohol linked to the phosphate group. For example, if the alcohol is choline, the molecule is called phosphatidylcholine or lecithin, and if it is serine, then it is called phosphatidylserine. Phosphoglycerides are the most abundant phospholipid molecules found in plasma membranes. Now, supingophospholipids. Supingophospholipids contain an amino alcohol called supingosine instead of glycerol, a fatty acid, phosphate, and an alcohol attached to the phosphate. In supingophospholipids, the amino group of the supingosine backbone is linked to a fatty acid by an amide bond. Supingomyelin is the most abundant supingophospholipid. The plasma membrane of animal cells contain 4 major phospholipids such as phosphatidylcholine, the most abundant glycerophospholipid in the plasma membrane, phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylethylamine, and supingomyelin. At neutral pH, the polar head groups may have no net charge, for example, phosphatidylethylamine, or it may have a net negative charge, for example, phosphatidylinositol and phosphatidylserine. Rarer phospholipids have a net positive charge. Now, glycolipids. Glycolipids contain carbohydrate, either monosaccharide or oligosaccharide, covalently attached to lipid. They can derive either from glycerol or supingosine. The simplest glycolipid, called as cerebroside, contains a single sugar residue, that is glucose or galactose. Gangliosides are more complex glycolipids containing a branched chain of as many as 7 sugar residues. The glycolipids are found extensively in the outer leaflet of the plasma membrane, with their carbohydrate portions exposed on the cell surface. Now, sterols. The basic structure of sterol is a steroid nucleus consisting of 4 fused rings, 3 with 6 carbons and 1 with 5 carbons. It is planar and relatively a rigid structure. Cholesterol is the major sterol present in the plasma membrane of animal cells. The plasma membrane of plant cells lacks cholesterol, but they contain sterols like stigmasterol and cetosterol. With the rare exceptions like mycoplasmas, bacterial plasma membrane also lacks cholesterol. Lipids are not randomly mixed in each leaflet of the bilayer. Certain lipids in the plasma membrane, cholesterol and supingolipids, are organized into aggregates called lipid rafts. Lipid rafts are membrane microdomains that are enriched with cholesterol and supingolipids. These microdomains also contain specific proteins. In mammalian cells, lipid rafts termed cavoli are marked by the presence of cavolin proteins. The rafts in cells appear to be heterogeneous both in terms of their protein and lipid content and can be localized in different parts of the cell. When amphipathic lipids are mixed with water, 3 types of lipid aggregates can form. In the case of fatty acid salts, which contains only one fatty acid chain, the molecules form a small and spherical micellar structure whose diameter is usually less than 20 nanometers, in which the hydrophobic fatty acid chains are hidden inside the micelle. A second type of lipid aggregate in water is the bilayer, in which 2 lipid monolayers combine to form a 2-dimensional sheet. In the third type of lipid aggregate, lipid bilayer forms a hollow sphere called a liposome, which is closed, self-sealing, solvent-filled vesicle that is bound by only a single bilayer. Now, the asymmetry of lipid bilayer. The phospholipids in the plasma membrane are asymmetrically distributed across the bilayer. The amine containing phospholipids are enriched in the cytoplasmic surface of plasma membrane, whereas the choline containing and supingolipids are enriched on the outer surface. This asymmetry is usually not absolute except for glycolipids. For example, in human erythrocyte, the phospholipids such as sphingomyelin and phosphatidylcholine are mostly found in extracytoplasmic leaflet, while phosphatidylserine and phosphatidylethanolamine are preferentially located on the cytoplasmic face. The maintenance of transbiliar lipid asymmetry is essential for normal membrane function. Once lipid asymmetry has been established, it is maintained by a combination of slow transbiliar diffusion, protein-lipid interaction, and protein-mediated transport. Motion of lipid molecules. Lipid bilayer is not a rigid and static structure. In a lipid bilayer, lipid molecules can rotate freely around their long axes, that is rotational motion, and diffuse laterally, that is lateral motion, within each leaflet. The ability of lipids to diffuse laterally in a bilayer indicates that it can act as a fluid. The degree of bilayer fluidity depends on the lipid composition and temperature. The lipid molecules can also undergo transition from one leaflet to other, called as transverse diffusion or flip-flop movement, and is an active process. Now, the fluidity of lipid bilayer. Fluidity of lipid bilayer depends on the lipid composition and temperature. In general, an increase in temperature tends to elevate membrane fluidity, while as decrease in temperature causing a freely flowing, low viscous fluid-like membrane structure to a more rigid gel-like organization. This change is described as phase transition, and the temperature at which this happens is called the transition temperature. Fluidity of membrane also depends on the chain length and degree of unsaturation of its component fatty acid residues. Lipids with short or unsaturated fatty acyl chains undergo phase transition at low temperature than lipids with long or saturated chains. Besides this, cholesterol is also a major determinant of membrane fluidity. At high temperature, cholesterol interferes with the movement of phospholipid fatty acid chains, making the membrane less fluid, but at low temperature, it interferes with the interactions between fatty acid chains and prevents membranes from freezing. At high temperature, found in eukaryotic plasma membranes, cholesterol tends to make the membrane overall less fluid at growth temperature near 37 degrees Celsius. Now, the membrane proteins. Membrane proteins are responsible for most of the dynamic processes carried out by membranes. Most membrane proteins can be classified as being either peripheral or integral. Many of the proteins associated with membrane can be released from the membrane by relatively gentle extraction procedures such as exposure to solutions of very high or low ionic strength of extreme pH. These procedures interfere with weak non-covalent interactions between protein-protein or protein-membrane lipid, but leave the lipid bilayer intact. These proteins are referred as intrinsic or peripheral proteins. These proteins are bound to membranes primarily by electrostatic and hydrogen bond interactions and do not interact with the hydrophobic core of phospholipid bilayer. Spectrin and ankyrin are common examples of peripheral proteins present in membranes of RBCs. Proteins that are held in the lipid bilayer very tightly and cannot be released by relatively gentle extraction procedures are called integral or intrinsic proteins. They are mostly transmembrane proteins which have one or more segment embedded in the phospholipid bilayer and are amphipathic in nature. Now, transport proteins. Membrane proteins can also be classified on the basis of functions like catalytic proteins, structural proteins, and transport proteins. Transport proteins responsible for selective transport of molecules may be carrier or channel proteins. All transport proteins are multipass transmembrane proteins. Carrier proteins can be uniporters or co-transporters. Uniporters transport single solute from one side of membrane to the other, while as co-transporters mediate coupled transport and involves either the simultaneous transfer of a second solute in the same direction, that is symport, or the transfer of second solute in the opposite direction, that is antipode. Co-transporters that mediate symport and antipode are termed as symporters and antiporters respectively. Channel proteins transport solutes down their concentration gradients. Channels may be gated or non-gated. Gated channels open only in response to specific signals. The main types of signals that cause ion channels to open are: number first, a change in voltage across the membrane, that is voltage gated channels, or a mechanical stress, that is mechanically gated channels, or it may be a mediator such as ion, that is ion gated channels, or a nucleotide, that is nucleotidal gated channels. Now, cell coat or glycocalyx. Carbohydrates are present on the surface of all eukaryotic cells. The carbohydrates such as oligosaccharides are bound either to proteins forming glycoproteins or lipids forming glycolipids. Plasma membranes also contain integral proteoglycan molecules with surface exposed polysaccharide chains. The term cell coat or glycocalyx is used to describe the carbohydrate coating of the cell surface. The cell coat helps to protect the cell surface from mechanical and chemical damage and also mediate specific transit cell-cell adhesion events. Now, the next segment is transport across plasma membrane. The internal composition of the cell membrane is maintained because the plasma membrane is selectively permeable structure and forms a barrier that blocks the free exchange of molecules between cytoplasm and the external environment of the cell. The transport of molecules across plasma membrane can occur either through the lipid bilayer or through the transport proteins. Transport across plasma membrane is of two types, passive and active transport. Let's talk of passive transport. It occurs along the concentration gradient and without the use of metabolic energy. If a transported substance carries a net charge, its movement is influenced by both its concentration gradient and the membrane potential. The combination of these two forces, called the electrochemical gradient, determines the direction of transport of a charged molecule across a membrane. Thus, an ion diffuses not simply down its concentration gradient, but more exactly down its electrochemical gradient. Passive transport may be simple diffusion or facilitated diffusion. What is this simple diffusion? During simple diffusion, a molecule simply dissolves in the phospholipid bilayer, diffuses across it. No membrane proteins are involved, and the direction of transport is determined simply by the relative concentration of molecules inside and outside the cell. The relative diffusion rate of a substance across a phospholipid bilayer is proportional to its concentration gradient across the layer and to its hydrophobicity and size. Now, what is facilitated diffusion? Like a simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion involves a movement of solutes along the concentration gradient. However, the passage is mediated by transport proteins and is selective in nature and may be carrier proteins or channel protein mediated. The rate of transport of molecules across the membrane is far greater in facilitated diffusion as compared to simple diffusion. Facilitated diffusion allows polar and charged molecules such as carbohydrates, amino acids, nucleosides, and ions across the membrane. Now, what's active transport? Active transport occurs against the concentration gradient and is mediated by carrier proteins. Metabolic energy is used to move ions or molecules against the concentration gradient. Active transport results in accumulation of solutes on one side of the membrane. Active transport is of two types, primary active transport and secondary active transport. Now, let's talk about the primary active transport. Primary active transport is coupled directly with a metabolic source of energy such as ATP hydrolysis or absorption of light by a carrier protein, for example in halobacteria. Transport of sodium positive and K positive by carrier protein, that is Na positive, K positive ATPase, is the most common example of primary active transport. Now, secondary active transport. It occurs when endergonic, that is uphill transport of one solute, is coupled with the exergonic, that is downhill flow of a different solute that was originally pumped uphill by the primary active transport. Secondary active transport is either symport or antipode, depending on whether the two solutes move in same or opposite direction. The common example of secondary active transport is the symport of Na positive and glucose. Now, the transport of macromolecules across plasma membrane. The plasma membrane is a dynamic structure that functions to segregate the chemically distinct intracellular milieu, that is cytoplasm, from the extracellular environment by regulating and coordinating the entry and exit of small and large molecules. Essential small molecules such as amino acids, sugars, and ions can traverse the plasma membrane through the action of integral membrane protein pumps or channels. Macromolecules must be carried into the cell in membrane-bound vesicles derived by the invaginations and pinching off of pieces of plasma membrane in a process termed endocytosis. Now, what is this endocytosis? The term endocytosis was coined by Christian D. Diouf in 1963. It is a process whereby eukaryotic cells internalize material from their surrounding environment. Internalization is achieved by the formation of membrane-bound vesicles at the cell surface that arrives by progress in invagination of plasma membrane, followed by pinching off and release of free vesicles into the cytoplasm. Classically, endocytosis has been divided into phagocytosis, that is cellular eating, and pinocytosis, that is cellular drinking. So what is this phagocytosis? Phagocytosis describes the internalization of large particles following particle binding to specific plasma membrane receptors and by the formation of large endocytic vesicles, which are generally greater than 250 nanometer in diameter, called phagosome. Phagocytosis occurs in specialized mammalian cells, that is macrophage, monocytes, neutrophils. It is an active and highly regulated process involving specific cell surface receptors and signaling cascade mediated by Rho family GTPase. Now, pinocytosis. Pinocytosis involves the ingestion of fluid and solutes via small vesicles which are less than 150 nanometers in diameter. Uptake of material dissolved extracellular fluid during pinocytosis occurs both selectively as well as non-selectively. Selectively and efficient uptake occurs when solutes are captured by specific high-affinity receptors, that is receptor-mediated endocytosis. In receptor-mediated endocytosis, a specific receptor on the cell surface binds tightly to the extracellular macromolecule, that is ligand, that it recognizes. The plasma membrane region containing the receptor-ligand complex then undergoes endocytosis, becoming a transport vesicle. Receptor-ligand complexes are selectively incorporated into the intracellular transport vesicles. Pinocytosis occurs in all cells by at least 4 basic mechanisms: macropinocytosis, calathin-mediated endocytosis, caveoli-mediated endocytosis, and calathin and caveoli-independent endocytosis. Macropinocytosis involves the membrane ruffling that is induced in many cell types upon stimulation by growth factors or other signals. Like phagocytosis, the signaling cascade that induces macropinocytosis involves Rho family GTPase, which trigger actin-driven formation of membrane protrusions. In case of calathin-mediated endocytosis, macromolecules bind to cell surface receptors, accumulate in calathin-coated pits, and enter the cells as a receptor and ligand complex in calathin-coated vesicles. In caveoli-mediated endocytosis, the presence of caveolin protein leads to the local change in morphology of the membrane. Caveoli contain some receptor protein and are used for receptor-mediated endocytosis, while as calathin and caveoli-independent endocytosis may constitute a specialized high-capacity endocytic pathway for lipids and fluids. This was all about today's lecture. Hope you have enjoyed. Thank you very much.